mostly AI for that. So we'll start with the first question about AI and Web3, which is, AI is so centralized, closed models, different centralized, huge companies, all the hyperscalers are very centralized today, taking most of the AI power of the world. And I'd like to ask, in the decentralized world, what are the biggest problems that decentralized AI can solve? And please take one problem that you think really decentralization can solve in this AI world of today.
Yeah, I think like AI is data and compute, right? So, and right now there are bottlenecks in both sides of it in traditional AI, but they're different. So let's say if you want one, let's say data is something that Web3 AI can solve, because crypto incentivizes people with giving them tokens to contributing their data or labeling data or participating in all of this data collection, aggregation systems, because that's what you need to feed into AI models to make them smarter and smarter. So I think actually Web3 can really contribute into data collection, labeling, but we will see how it works actually.
Yeah, so I think there are three major components to decentralized AI that can bring for centralized AI, right? The first part is abundance. Just because it's decentralized, you're able to collect resources from across the globe and provide abundance of a particular resource. It could be GPUs or it could be data in our case, where we are able to enable people to bootstrap and use these resources to build better models or better AI for sake. The second is the verifiability, how you can make every component of AI to be verifiable, right from data ownership to the contribution and the reward for your data, right? Enabling that is very important, which does not happen in the centralized platforms. I think the third one is very important that we see should be there is rewarding. You get to reward people for the data that they provide as well. So with crypto, you can make it much more easier. You have easier access to reward people, anyone across the globe. And I would say these three components are the most important aspects of what decentralized AI can be providing for the centralized AI forces. And for us, it's very important as well, because if we are looking to build one of the biggest platforms out there that can enable better models and specialized models to be accessible, Hugging Face tries to do this in traditional platform, but it's open source, not monetizable, and not verifiable as well. So there is a threshold, right? It doesn't expand after a certain point of time. This happened back during the internet days. There was so much open source products out there, but they did not really scale because there was no monetization, right? We want to solve that problem. We want to make sure that open source can thrive in this ecosystem. Open source thrives only if you're able to reward open source contributors, and the contributors are able to verify that on-chain as well, so you're able to bring in that trust. So at OpenLedger, our aim is to make sure that we are able to create this trustless platform where they don't have to trust like the founder of a company, they can trust the code and contribute for the code, contribute data, or contribute any kind of resources to enable better AI models to be built and get rewarded as part of the process. So I guess that's the most important component that any decentralized AI company can add to traditional AI space, contributing resources, making AI much better and enabling people to get rewarded as part of the process.
For us, we look at this, I guess, largely through the lens of the services we provide, and GPUs being that service. If you think about the AI space, GPUs are really the engine that powers the AI economy, right? You can't train models without GPUs, you can't run AI applications without GPUs, but GPUs themselves and the types of GPUs that are useful for the AI sector are becoming increasingly difficult to access, right? You look and Elon Musk was in the news just a few days ago. He's raising $25 billion for a new data center. He wants to put 1 million GPUs in this data center, right? Well, we haven't just overnight gained the ability to produce an extra 1 million GPUs for Elon, right? This is by pressure that is really, again, going to be pushed through the same channels that we're using today, limiting access to those resources for people that are not Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or Sam Altman. And this is kind of a persistent issue, particularly when we look at who we would ideally like producing highly performant AI or at least competitors to solutions that exist within just the top 5 kind of biggest tech companies. So for us, we really look at the opportunity here in accessing underutilized equipment, underutilized resources out there in the market, resurfacing them through our cloud, and then creating through our decentralized infrastructure the opportunity for more builders to access this compute, so that we've got interesting solutions being delivered by people that aren't just Elon Musk and Sam Altman.
This brings me to the next question, and Mark, it's a follow-up. The hardware shortage is choking the market, and how do you feel that a Web3 decentralized GPU market, which is growing, how do you feel it can be significant on the map of the entire GPU world? You just mentioned all those large buyers hyperscaling through any piece of GPU they can find. When do you think Web3 can get 1% of the GPU market?
I think when you look at the pressure that's coming onto the market from these big frontier models, first of all, that pressure is not going away, right? If anything, it's just going to increase. Secondly, I don't think there's going to necessarily be any quantum leap in our ability to produce supply, right? So the ratio of the supply we need and the supply we have is probably just going to get maybe more constrained. But as soon as that constraint reaches, even more of a bottleneck, or as it reaches more of a bottleneck, I think you start to look at what solutions are to that bottleneck, right? And again, you can't just produce far more performant chips, right? NVIDIA can't just create high performant chips overnight, right? They can't update their supply chain in a way that they can manufacture double the amount of chips overnight either. So the only kind of alternative solution here is better management of the resources you already have, right? And if you have equipment sitting in a data center owned by a single company, for example, that company may have bought those resources for themselves. They don't have the infrastructure attached to those GPUs to then go and on-sell them to other customers, right? That's not their business. They don't have that sort of sales or technical infrastructure to make that resource a valuable asset to them. So the only real way they're going to be able to do that is by plugging into a platform like Aether, right? We're like the Airbnb, right? You've got that undervalued asset in your home, that kind of spare room, right? But you can go and try and advertise that on Craigslist. You can kind of, chat to your friends about kind of coming and using that room. But the real value comes when you can plug it in to a enterprise-capable infrastructure stack that gives you real access to real customers, real demand, real enterprises out there that need to compute. So I'll say, as the market gets more and more constrained, I think efficient management of these resources is only going to become more and more critical. So I think that networks like Aether's are just going to become absolutely more crucial over the next kind of 6 to 12 months.
Well, stay in the hardware space, Evgeny, we discussed this earlier, but most of the market share of decentralized hardware and GPUs is purchased by decentralized companies. What do you think will be the unlock moment where decentralized hardware will be purchased by Web2 companies, or companies that are not decentralized themselves?
Yeah, I think they're already buying it, some of it, because essentially price is a big pain point when you train a fine-tuned model like in the inference. For many, so right now, because the market is, last year we saw like real scarcity of like H100s. This year everyone have them, and like the prices generally go down, so you can actually rent it from almost anywhere. Also, like big clouds provide credits. So, but still, people who really trying to save budgets, they see that the lowest prices coming from deep-in projects and decentralized projects. So they obviously go there. But then sometimes, there are legal constraints mainly, or like compliance constraints. They just, if it's a not really couple of people start up in the basement, but a little bit bigger company, essentially legal team says, no, we cannot use this, we cannot send our business data or our users' data to some machine somewhere, we don't know where, and then process it there, because it's violate a bunch of laws, GDPR, and so on. So we need to see that they have certification, at least like SOC 2 or ISO 27001. And we also want to pay from our bank account. So these are like constraints. It's not a big constraints actually that exist now, and I think it's quite easily solvable for certain types of providers of hardware. But it's going to be very hard to solve it for individual providers. Like if I have my single GPU at my home, I will not have all of these certifications. Like there's zero probability. So, but my GPU can be used to train on some public data. And so if I need to fine-tune a model using blockchain data or any kind of data that is available on the internet, then it's fine. My GPU fits and someone would rent it. And then also the reliability, availability issue exists obviously, right? So these home-owned GPUs can go down at any moment, so that's why people really use it for tasks where you have some time and you prioritize price that you pay versus completing the job as soon as possible, or availability, or something like that. So I think we will see more and more usage from Web2, but it's not going to be homogeneous. So it really depends on the provider and their setup.
I'll jump in as well and just say that of Aether's revenue, for example, the vast majority comes from Web2 providers, and that is primarily as a result of us building our infrastructure, exactly as Evgeny said, to meet the needs and the SLAs of enterprise customers. Right? If you can't tick the contractual boxes that already exist in Web2, doesn't matter how cheap your service is, right? You just won't get that business.
How to be enterprise grade. Let's move to software and the black box nature of centralized models. Michael, if you can introduce yourself, and also, of course, tell us more about how can software-based proofs and transparency in the centralized world can help AI be less black boxy.
Yeah, sorry for being fashionably late. I was being filmed for a major Web3 documentary that was running late, so apologies to the panels lists, and excited to always be on an amazing panel with lots of our partners as well. I think I've been on probably more panels than I can count with Mark, so always great to see you, puts a smile on my face. But I'm Michael, co-founder and CEO of Zero G Labs. At Zero G Labs, we're building the largest AI layer 1 ecosystem. And basically what that means is, if you know AWS and you know OpenAI, we basically build similar infrastructure but fully decentralize it. And then the next natural question is, well, why decentralize in the first place? So decentralized systems like OpenAI, which ironically is closed AI, because you have no idea where the data came from, who labeled the data, who made the censorship decisions, what the weights and biases of the model are, which version of the model you're getting. All of these are completely opaque. So it's a black box system. And the next question then is, how do we trust something that we can't verify? How do we trust something that's a complete black box system when we start utilizing AI in more societal level use cases? So logistics systems, manufacturing systems, governance systems. So for that, decentralized AI provides the antidote, if you will, and creates transparency in every part of the stack. So for example, with our decentralized storage layer, you have provenance. The moment the data enters the system, you know where it came from. If there's any modifications to the data, you have a track of what happened. If there's data poisoning attacks, for example, somebody injected data that's not supposed to be in a model, you will have a track of it. You can then untrain the model if necessary. So that's one example of creating visibility. Another example is to while the models are in production, to actually align them in real time. So if something's going wrong on the system, you have some agent that's misbehaving, you can use blockchain-based slashing conditions or incentive conditions to let these models either run differently or shut them down completely. And so by having that sort of transparency and that sort of model on chain, there's a lot of benefits that happen. So not only can you verify things that are happening underneath the hood, you can also in real time then modify the behavior of these systems.
Thank you. And, if you look at today's AI training, it's mostly trained on scraped data. The entire internet is scraped, is being brought to the model. The entire training process is being done on petabytes of information that are scraped all over the place. And Ramkumar, I would like to ask, how can you attribute this massive amount of data in the right way? And this, even if it's transparent, no user can really track what's going on. It's so massive to even understand. I'd love to ask, how can it be somewhat explained to the user?
Yeah, so if you take the large language models today, right, they're pretty much trained on internet data, as I told. This is data that's easily scraped off the internet, because that's the most easiest accessible data that we can get. In fact, me and Mark was talking while we were coming to the event, right? That's the first place where people go for data. But the actual gold mine lies with skilled and enterprises, skilled people, where there is much more specific and specialized data sets. Most of the large language models today, like DeepSeek, Llama, have become a commodity, right? Pretty much every model has the same data that's been trained on. If you ask a question, the answer is pretty much the same. It's not deterministic, so there will be some kind of variations, but you will get the gist. It's all about performance, how the app is. But if you want to go much more deeper, if AI has to be used in various sectors, for example, AI has to be used in healthcare, or AI has to be used in app for e-commerce and all that, you need models which are specialized, models which are trained on very specific data sets. That is what we want to enable to happen in OpenLedger, right? I don't think there's a point in going and fighting against the large language models because they have enough resources, they have enough funding to go ahead and create the models and make it much more efficient. It's about going and tapping into the niche areas where there's an actual requirement, and we want to focus on enabling more and more people to own their own AI, right? How can I build my own model for the use case that I'm looking for, let's say for healthcare or for any other particular use case, and how can I kind of use the bootstrapping method, use decentralization to collect these resources to build those models. So we want to make sure that we provide an end-to-end platform, a layer which can have like data contributors participate, contribute data, model builders use this data, build the models, and then use our attribution layer to reward back to the data contributors. And how we kind of solve that, right? Every time a model is created on OpenLedger, when a user queries this model, does an inference on this model, on that inference, we'll be able to figure out which data is causing that output data. Not many people have done that, we're the first guys to do that. You can't do that on a large language model because black box, we don't know how it works, we don't know what kind of data has been trained on. But on the fine-tuned layer, the layer that you superimpose on that model, we're able to figure out which data actually caused an impact. So we use that for two reasons. One, to show verifiability, explain the model. Anyone who's using this model knows what kind of data was trained for this model, whether the data is poisoned or not, whether I can trust this. Number two is to reward as well. Anyone who contributes for this data should know that his data was useful in this model's output and should get paid for it. Should be part of the revenue that came because they made the biggest contribution, right? So these are the two ways where we make sure that attribution happens on OpenLedger. It's based on a paper that we researched with a professor named James Arm in Stanford, and it was a year-old research that we were deep in, and then that's how we started building our library as well. So it's very important that we manage the end-to-end process of this, right from data contribution, showing the ownership of the data, to the model building, showing the versioning of the model, which model has which data, and then accordingly attributing as part of this. And that's why this is a purposeful layer 2 for this one. We could have just gone with the generic blockchain, but it doesn't make sense because all the generic blockchains do not have solutions for us to use, and that is the reason we built our own layer 2 to solve this purpose as well.
Thank you. We have a lot of AI trends these days, and of course Web3 and AI is one of them. My question to you all is, if you think about the connections between Web3 and AI and how it can be leveraged, how can AI be leveraged to really push forward Web3? Is there an idea that you think that should be implemented in the Web3 space using AI that has not yet been implemented? Things that you really think that are the next big thing and great ideas, but nobody picked them up and built a company around that. What can these ideas be?
Maybe I'll mention a couple just to kick it off. One that's kind of obvious and is starting to be implemented is let's get rid of all the horrible user experiences in Web3 and just use AI agents to do most of our work. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and says, oh, this bridge is so fun to use, I'm going to bridge all day long. It's like, that usually doesn't happen. And my experience has been for larger dollar amounts, I have to use the bridge multiple times, and then if the chain is congested, it takes extra long, and it goes from like a minute to 16 minutes. It's just a terrible user experience. So AI agent can replace a lot of that. And then the second thing that I hinted at before is this whole idea around alignment. We believe that AI alignment nodes can act like a natural police force in a way to start detecting things like data poisoning attacks, backdoor attacks, model drift, agents misbehaving, and so on. So I think that needs to be something that we need to implement. Very much a research-based problem, not an engineering problem yet.
I think AI should be used as an abstraction way, as Michael was saying as well. If you take a look at the app era, it abstracted us from using a lot of physical way of reaching out to something, right? If I order a product, I should probably call the store, see if it's there, and I should go there and buy it. But in an app, I could just order it and it comes to my home. And same goes with most of the ride-hailing services along that. AI is another vehicle that's going to abstract most of the human-related work that we do. It's just going to make us much more efficient. And the same with Web3 as well, right? You can use it for DeFi, you can use it for governance, or you can use it for any kind of Web3-based operations. I think most of the on-chain transactions in the next 4 or 5 years will be majorly driven by agents. So we should just see them as a vehicle and try to replace human-related activities and have AI be there and increase efficiency with that.
I'll just add to the efficiency argument is that, I mean, overall AI is about kind of accelerating, abstracting, and making more efficiency in the same processes. And like, you know, crypto is massively about speculation and trading, and there are algorithms behind it, and you know, whether it's manual algorithms or coded. So potentially, and we see AI is progressing a lot in coding, how they like actually writing code in applications, and they can really go deep into huge code bases of boring parts of software that no one, like not a lot of people still interested in, like, I don't know, writing drivers for, you know, your connectivity devices and stuff like that. Anyway, so they can potentially find some optimization in some algorithms that we using under the hood of our programming languages and devices and everywhere. And this way to, you know, benefit, create more efficient, you know, either high-frequency trading algorithms or like DeFi strategies or whatever kind of arbitrage can happen in crypto. So I think we will see, you know, crypto-native companies or like on-chain companies created and coded by AI. So with algorithms coded by AI that actually earn quite a lot of money on trading or like liquidity managing in crypto. And this is great because, you know, crypto is actually native money for AI overall. So it's very compatible things to do together.
Yeah, I tend to agree. At the risk of just, you know, agreeing with everyone on the panel, I think one kind of premise maybe that I disagree on is the idea that something needs to be built still for AI to better interact with what we have.
Yeah, it can build itself.
The real on-ramp here is just AI itself, right? With the way we interact with AI is effectively through intents, right? We tell them what we want achieved, we don't tell them how to do it. And AI then goes and figures it out themselves. And I think what we've built, all of these programmatic layers and rails for asset transfer and transfer of value and ownership and privacy and sovereignty, I think AI is just going to look at that world through a totally different lens, right? Instead of the complex mess of user experience that we have as humans, right? It'll see rules and formula and structure that it can just tap into really, really easily. And I think that's going to be the real adoption curve. AI coming in and just using it as it wants.
I think like very simple use case also, right? For example, 2 days back I was trying to figure out a hotel which is close to the event and also doesn't take me like a very long time to like reach because I have to like figure out the place. For that, just for efficiency of that, right? I just want to give like an intent to an AI and make sure that I get a hotel which is nearby within the budget that we want to be allowed for, and also make sure that I get to the place much quicker as well, right? So stuff like that you can't use within an app. In an app I have to keep on scrolling to figure out which is the right place. What if I can just give an intent to an agent and it can do that? It makes life much more easier. It could save me like 30 minutes of my time, which is much efficient in this world. So just making life much more easier is the most simple thing that an AI can do. It can happen in Web3 or Web2 as well.
We'll have to wrap up in half a minute. I'll just share with you another idea. We all talk about how AI can improve our lives as users, as consumers, as traders. And I think AI can improve business lives and solve one of the biggest problems, which is in crypto, in Web3, detect the non-contributing users, those who are just extracting value, those who take the airdrop and leave, those who are really there just for extracting a lot of value and leaving. And that's the difference between a bot and a non-bot, right? You can have your own AI, it's not a bot, it's your replica doing things for you when you sleep. But the real bots are most of the users of Web3, for sure, and those users of Web3 or wallets that are active are actually extracting a lot of value and going away to the next thing. And as a business, I think the best thing to ask from AI agent is to just identify each and every user and tell me, is this a real contributing user or someone just going to extract value from our business and move on? That is something, as a business, I'll ask from AI, and I'd love that to be already a real thing, a real service.
So you want AI farmer detection?
I want farmer detection and any kind of non-contributing activity to be detected at the get-go, so it won't be serviced.
I've got a funny anecdote. I know we're wrapping up, but I was checking out a copy trading platform, and they've got, I think, 5 million wallets that they track. All of these wallets at some point in time had decent amounts of funds in them. They were, copyable wallets. And they had a filter, and it was filters of wallets that are in profit, right? And the minimum amount of profit that it tracks is $100, right? As soon as you move that tracker to $100, the filter, there's 5,000 wallets left.
Yeah.
It's like 5 million down to 5,000 wallets for just $100 profit. Crazy.
No surprise, pumped up fun.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, thank you guys.